Today we're looking at lesson 6.3, which is solving systems of equations by using elimination. And you would either add or subtract, and I'll show you what that means in a little bit. So step one for this process is going to be write the system so like terms with the same or opposite coefficients are aligned. So like terms means it has the same variable, and coefficient is the number before the variable. So they can either both be positive in this case, or one would be negative and one would be positive, but those would be the two options circled in yellow. So you want to line those up. So what you should have is you should have the x's lined up, the y's lined up, the equal signs lined up, and the numbers after the equal signs lined up. And then you can start the process. So what you need to start the process is you need to figure out how to cancel the variables that have the like terms that have either opposite coefficients or the same coefficient, like I showed you before. So in this case, we're thinking of how do you cancel out positive 6 and negative 6? Would you add the two or would you subtract the two? So think of 6 plus negative 6. That's going to give us 0. If I did 6 minus negative 6, that ends up being 6 plus 6, so that would not eliminate the variable. So that's where you have to decide whether you're going to add or subtract to eliminate the variable you're trying to eliminate. Then once it's eliminated, you're going to do the same thing to each column. So we decided to add here, so I'm going to add the 4 plus the 3 to get 7x. And then I'm going to cross out the variables that are opposite coefficients. Then I bring down the equal sign, and then I also do 32 plus 3 to get 35. Then I solve for x, and I get x equals 5. Step 3 would be to take the x equals 5 from the step we just did and plug it in or substitute it in to one of the equations and solve for the other variable. Then you're going to write your solution as an ordered pair. So I've written it as 5, 2 or x, y. So for the first one, if we look here, we notice that the negative 4x and the 4x are lined up. They're all like terms, so the x's are lined up, the y's are lined up, and the negative 3 and 5, both the constants, are lined up. Now we can start. We need to determine how do we cancel out negative 4 and 4. Do we need to add or subtract? So opposites, you're always going to add to cancel out. So we're going to add the first two, which cancel them out. Then we're going to add 3y plus 5y, and in this case it's actually 3y plus negative 5y, which gives us negative 2y. And then I'm going to bring the equal sign down, and I would need to do negative 3 plus 5, and that gives me positive 2. And I've eliminated the x's for now. Then I solve for y. So y would be negative 1. And when I've gotten whatever variable equals, or whatever one variable equals, I need to plug it into either equation and solve for the other variable. So if I choose the first one, I would have negative 4x plus 3 times negative 1, which is replacing the y, equals negative 3, and now I can solve for x. And this doesn't always happen, but it's okay if it does. The numbers cancel themselves out to be 0, so 0 divided by anything is going to be 0. So my answer, if I write it as an ordered pair, is going to be 0, -1. Now we have another problem. This time the variables are not lined up, so I'm going to put them in a vertical line. So I need to rearrange the top equation so that it's 3x first and then 4y. Since it's addition, it's a commutative property, so I can just switch it without changing anything. So 3x plus 4y is what I changed the top to be, and it's still equal to 22. So I'm no longer using the top. And now I have the two variables lined up together. Now I can choose here which variable I want to cancel out. I can either cancel out the x's by subtracting, because I would need to do 3 minus 3, or I can cancel out the y's by adding, and that would give me -4 plus 4. It is your choice which one you'd like to do. I'm going to do the x's just because they're first, and that means I need to subtract. So I do 3x minus 3x, which cancels them out. Then -4 minus 4, which gives me -8y. And then 14 minus 22, which gives me actually -8. So I'm going to divide by -8 to solve for y, and y would be +1. And then I'm trying to get x, so I need to take y equals 1 and plug it into either equation. I'll do the first one, so 3x minus 4 times 1 equals 14. So 3x minus 4. I need to add the 4, and I get 3x equals 18, so x would be 6. And I write it as an ordered pair, so my answer is 6, 1. Here I need to translate the equations into or translate the sentences into equations, and then I need to solve because it wants us to still find the numbers that we don't know. So the first sentence we're going to translate into an equation. It says the sum of two numbers is -10. So we'll make the two numbers x and y. So we could just do x plus y equals -10. Then it says -3 times the first number minus the second number equals 2. So if I did the first number as x, I'm going to write this one as -3x minus the second number is what they say, so minus y equals 2. And that's going to be my two equations. Now I need to solve them. So let me rewrite. And I'm going to choose to, since the variables are lined up, I'm going to choose to add so that I cancel out the y's. And I have 1x plus -3x, which gives me -2x. The y's cancel themselves out, bring down the equal sign, and I have -10 plus 2, which is going to be -8. So x would be +4, and then I plug that into either equation. Let's choose the first one. So 4 plus y equals -10. So y would be -14. So my answer would be 4, -14. Here we are asked to solve the system of equations, and then we're going to pick our multiple choice answer on the next page. So we're going to subtract here because we want to cancel out the 8's and the b's. So 8 minus 8 is 0. 3 minus 7 is -4c. and 11 minus 7 is positive 4. So to get C, I would need to divide by negative 4, which gives me C is negative 1. Then I'm plugging that back into the C in either equation to find B. So I just chose the first one, doesn't matter though. Plugging in negative 1 for C, so I have 8B minus 3 equals 11. So 8B equals 14, and divide by 8. And if I simplify that, I would divide by 2, so that would be 7 over 4, or 1 3/4, or 1.75. So I'm picking the solutions that have a 1.75 and a negative 1. So the only one that has 1.75 and negative 1 is G. So that would be my answer. And here we have the last problem, which is a word problem. We're again going to translate the sentences into equations, and then we're going to solve. So it says Tamara and Adelina are throwing a birthday party for their friend. Tamara invited 5 fewer friends than Adelina. So if we're thinking of Tamara, it's going to have to be A equals T minus 5. If we're going to use their names as the variables, it doesn't matter. Then we would take the next sentence. It says, together they invited 47 guests. So we would just have T plus A equals 47. And we can choose any method here to solve. I actually would choose substitution. It tells us to use elimination, so if we have to use elimination, remember the variables need to line themselves up. So I would need to move the T from the first one to be over on the side with the A before I start. So it would look more like A minus T equals negative 5. And we keep this one the same. Oops, but we want to line up the variables, so we're going to do A plus T instead of T plus A. Doesn't matter because of the commutative property. And that's what we're going to solve. So we're finished with this one. Now we have A minus T equals negative 5 and A plus T equals 47. Doesn't matter which variable you cancel out here, because either one would be able to cancel out with either addition or subtraction. I'm going to cancel out the A's with subtraction, so that means they cancel themselves out, but then I have negative 1T minus T, which is actually going to give me negative 2T. Negative 5 minus 47 is going to give me negative 52. So I'm going to divide by negative 2. So Tamara is inviting 26. And then I plug that back into either one of the equations. So let's do the second one. I have A plus 26 equals 47. Solving for A. That's going to give me 21. And that's going to be my answer. And that concludes lesson 6.3 on eliminating using addition and subtraction.